Welcome to Sip Wiselee, where we celebrate bourbon in all of its forms, from the legends you love to the emerging gems, including Missouri whiskey. I'm Jonathan Lee, your guide on this flavorful journey. Together, we'll dive into the stories, craftsmanship, and flavors that make every pour something special. So, pour a glass, settle in, and let's sip wisely. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Sip Wiselee podcast. For this episode, we were thrilled to be on location, learning about another awesome St. Louis distillery. Now, if you listen to this show regularly, you may have noticed, you may have missed us, because we were gone for the month of August. When we recorded this one live on location back in July, it was requested that this episode drop in September. So, being that they were gracious enough to have us out to the location, give us their time, and let us sample some of the product, absolutely we obliged by that request. So here we are, September 1st. The distillery is Switchgrass. We were joined by Nick, the distiller there, and we are also joined by a fellow society member, Gary. So it was great to have him along for some insights and questions as well. In this episode, we are diving deep into the unique world of Switchgrass and hearing directly from Nick. You can expect to learn about Nick's fascinating journey into distilling, which started not with American whiskeys, but with European fruit brandies like Calvados. After a career in international development nonprofits and an initial plan for opening a brewery. You'll discover how Switchgrass makes its whiskey stand out, particularly through its sweet mashing process that results in an oilier, richer, and fuller whiskey with significantly less acidity. We'll also explore their distinctive use of high wheat content in all of their bourbons and ryes, and the choice of a paleo barley for added nutty and roasted characteristics. We'll uncover the intriguing crowdsourced and worker-owned business model that shapes Switchgrass operations, and hear about the strategic decision to locate in North St. Louis, where that limestone-rich water is incredible for whiskey production, and the affordability of the space allows them to age barrels without significant storage costs. And of course, we'll get insights into their product philosophy, where barrels are seen as ingredients for specific customer needs, crafting distinct whiskeys for cocktails versus sippers. We'll even get a peek into their upcoming releases, including a new American whiskey and a stout cask finished bourbon, and learn where you can find their products all across Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. So, go ahead and grab your favorite pour, maybe it's even a Switchgrass, sit back, and get ready to sip wisely with Nick from Switchgrass. Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Sip Wiselee podcast. We are on location today covering another awesome St. Louis distillery. We are here at Switchgrass, and I want to welcome in Nick.
Yes.
Welcome, Nick.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
And Gary, a fellow society member. Welcome, Gary.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. All right, Nick. So you are the star of the show today. Before we get into it, we mentioned in the opening a little bit about you, the bio. Go ahead and just kind of maybe mention stuff that's maybe not in the bio about you and your distillery before we kick on into the history.
Okay. Well, my previous career was in international development nonprofits, and that was very interesting and fun work, but it got old, and I wanted to start my own business, and I was going to start a brewery for a long time. And I did all the research, and I had a couple investors, and then one thing led to another, and I started a distillery instead. So, like most people, I went from beer into liquor, and so a lot of that background affected the choices that Switchgrass makes, like knowledge of how beer works and the beer side of things, makes Switchgrass make a lot more sense, because we do things differently, and the beer background explains a lot of that. So
Yeah, and I bet that. I mean, obviously they're very different in spirit and alcohol and beer kind of thing, but the process has got some similarities to it.
yes,
The cooking of the grains. And
yeah, starch into sugar, sugar into alcohol,
Yeah.
barley ingredient. You know, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into your bourbon statistics. This is where we get a chance to get to know you a little bit more and your history with bourbon and the spirit. So your bourbon age, that's not how old your bourbon is. We'll get to that down the road. But how long have you been around the spirit, whether it's been just enjoying it or making it, that kind of thing?
So I was a beer guy. I've been homebrewed beer, but I visited my friend in France, in Paris, and I was an old roommate, and we met up in the morning, and we had a shot of Calvados and a shot of espresso, and he said, "This is the working man's breakfast here." I said, "This stuff is great."
Wow.
Like French brandy, and that's what actually got me into liquor, like European fruit brandies. I'm Italian. I love grappas. But then I got into American whiskeys from there. So just learning to appreciate subtlety above 100 proof is hard, and Europe's been doing that. And so I actually my bourbon and rye experience is after my fruit brandy experience, which is a really weird way to do it. But I experimented making apple brandy, and I made rye whiskey too, enough to convince investors to invest. So yeah,
So safe to say you've been around for many, many years.
yeah.
Yeah, good. So then when you do grab a drink, whether it's that brandy or whether it's the rye or whatever, how do you like to? Do you like it neat or with like a touch of water or rock or what?
So if I'm working, I'm tasting barrels. I do that very specific way. So you have it at room temperature, at barrel proof. I take the first sip, and then I add a little bit of water and take a second sip. I'm usually tasting for specific flavors, off flavors. It's not how I would recommend to drink whiskey, trying to find everything wrong with it, but it is the way I drink. It's like part of my job. Right. I'm always looking for tasting notes. We have specific flavors we want to put in our blends. We can go over it later when we're actually tasting, but I have a checklist in my head of certain flavors that I'm looking for that we can blend together to make a consistent product. So like apples and cherries and raisins, figs, and dates and black pepper and fresh baked bread. And like these flavors, I'm just trying to pick them out from the 16 barrels I have to taste. So that's how I do it for work. When I drink, like, what am I pouring after my kids fall asleep? It's now it's like apple brandy, bourbon, lighter stuff.
Yep.
Winter it's heavier, like single malts, ryes. Think, stouts in the winter, and barley wines in the winter, lagers in the summer.
Yeah. Yep.
Lagers and ciders in the summer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we've joked in previous episodes that, rye whiskeys typically are great in the wintertime because they have more of that huggy, warm feeling, and wheats tend to be a little softer and better in the summertime kind of things. Wheated in the heated was a phrase from last season. But, so when your kids go to bed and it's time to relax a little bit, say, 10:30 if you're thinking like my kids, what is that go-to for you?
Recently it's been the apple brandy. It's our green label. It's just so light, so crisp. It's really dry. We don't add any caramel or sugar to our brandy, so it's like really dry and light and crisp. We use like a white wine yeast, so it's just really chill in the summertime.
Okay. And we may get to this in the tasting episode, but in case we don't, for newbies like myself, brandy versus a whiskey and a bourbon, what is that difference if people see that on the shelf?
So brandy's, like whiskey and brandy are the two big categories. Whiskey's made out of this. The sugar that the yeast eats to make alcohol comes from starch in a whiskey. So starch gets converted into sugar, sugar gets converted into alcohol. In a brandy, the sugar that the yeast eats comes from fruit. It's just like all of the sugar. It comes from grapes, pears, plums, apples. Yeah, it comes from fruit. You don't have to convert starch into sugar. It's just in the fruit. So,
Gotcha.
and that it branches out from there, like grappa, calvados, like there's tons of Kirschwasser. There's tons of brandies, and there's tons of whiskeys too. There's Scotch, Japanese, bourbon, rye, all of that. But the main difference is where the sugar comes from.
I'm not a big brandy drinker, so I don't know a whole lot about brandy. But like, what's the proof range of those brandies?
Oh, it's wild. Yeah, it can get usually 80 proof is the low end, but you can get barrel proof too.
Oh wow.
So.
Okay.
And so then
I mean, like up, 125.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And so I assume since you guys make an apple brandy and, like bourbon is a U.S. product.
Right.
Brandy, since you're making it, it's over in Europe as well. It doesn't have like the same stipulations, or like Scotch has to be in.
Right.
Is brandy kind of open?
As long as you make it out of fruit and don't put in a bunch of table sugar, like it's just part of the definition of the recipe.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Is that fruit? Is it locally sourced also?
yeah,
Okay.
that's all of our apples come from out near Washington, Missouri.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So we know you fairly well. Now let's get into Switchgrass and the story behind that. So give us a history. Where did it come from?
Okay, so Switchgrass started, it's probably like 8-9 years ago. I was going to start a brewery, like I said, but we decided to start, my wife and I decided to start a distillery instead. There was just so many breweries all the time, new ones.
Yeah, craft.
Everybody's trying to carve out their niche, do their own thing, and I was good at making beer, and I was working in breweries on the weekends, so I knew how to clean stainless tanks and stuff. But I just decided, I saw how much harder it would be to start a distillery and not buy product and make all of my own product, and I was like, nobody's going to do that. That's really hard. To last that long till your whiskey ages up. And I just saw a challenge. I saw an opportunity, and I saw that 7-8 years ago, craft whiskey wasn't a thing, but craft beer was, and 20 years ago, craft beer wasn't a thing. So everybody thought it was like, Miller or Budweiser, was your choices. And it was Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, so I just took a bet that like people weren't going to get less educated. Like the difference is education in beer. Like, the difference between stout and an IPA and a Saison, and, people like figured all that out. And I just figured that same thing would happen to whiskey. And brandy and spirits in general. Like, people are going to want something new. They're going to want something cool. And you got to lead your shot, because you got to come up with a product that you think people are going to buy 5-6 years after you make it. But you just make some assumptions. Like, people aren't going to get less educated. People aren't going to care less about how it's made or where it's made, and then just try to be at the right place at the right time. So that's why we pivoted into whiskey, got a bunch of investors, we're crowdsourced and worker owned. So everybody who works at Switchgrass full time owns equity in the company, and the money to make Switchgrass came from probably like 50 small investors. So that changes how the business is run. It changes how the business is financed, and everybody agrees to the same plan, is to basically, make bottle to bond bourbon and rye, pay the bills, and then have a bunch of other fun stuff too. But yeah, I mean, that was the pitch, and we did that. Got everything going. At first we put debt into barrels, but we've been cash flow positive for 4 years now. So
great.
And we've always made more barrels than we've sold. So that's kind of like our goal, is just scaling up at this point. But yeah,
Very cool.
It's going
Cool. So
pretty well.
The name Switchgrass, where does that come from, and how did it come about?
Okay. We had to rename our first name. We were notified by Arcane Distilling of their intellectual property, and all the lawyers we talked to said that we should just change our name because we hadn't sold anything yet.
Okay.
So a lot of my family has degrees in horticulture and cares about like native prairie and stuff. And switchgrass, when you take the wagons across, Missouri and Kansas going for California, that's what you see. That's that tall grass, like head high.
Yeah.
But it's got 6-foot roots, and it's got 6 foot. It's a 6-foot tall grass, and it's just a huge grass, and it's a really Midwestern prairie is like very close to my heart, and it's also how our business is structured, like with all the investors and all the workers, and yeah, it was just like a cool image.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's very cool. So then let's take that history of how you pivoted from beer to whiskey, and the name of where you came from and all that. And so describe the spirit and the brand a little bit.
Okay. So we decided we wanted to be the craft beer of whiskeys. So craft beer, you don't try to out Budweiser. Mm-hmm. You gotta do your own thing. You gotta put your own spin on a classic. You gotta come up with something new. You gotta figure out something to differentiate yourself from the biggest marketing budget in the world. So we were like, we'll just do that with whiskey. So we call it sweet mashing, and the production, like our whole thing is just, we make it different and we educate customers how we make it. So we knew we love Kentucky whiskey. I like drinking Busch beer after I cut the grass, but that's not what we make. We make something different. And the main difference is sweet mashing. So we do longer, colder conversions that keeps more of our grain or the starches and proteins intact. So it makes it through the process, and our whiskey just tastes oilier and richer and fuller and more like the ingredients we use. The next big difference is we use yeast, not bacteria, to do our sugar to alcohol conversions. Okay. So it's a distiller's yeast, but most distilleries, fermenting takes like 2 days, day and a half. Mm-hmm. It's really hot. It's really fast. It's really efficient. They use Lactobacillus and Brettanomyces. Think about
Spell that?
No. But yeah, it's like kind of like the difference between sourdough bread and regular bread, or a sour beer and a regular beer. It's just like way more acidic to do it the sour mash way, and it's way less acidic to do the sweet mash way. It also makes it taste like apples and cherries. But that using yeast, having a closed fermenter, having a sanitary process, having to clean a lot more, it's way easier to screw up. But what we put into the still is so much less acidic than what everybody else does, that our whiskey tastes so much better, so much sooner. You don't have to wait for 6 years for that acid to break down. It's just never in there to begin with. So that's the main difference. Every product we make, we try to put our own, like I said, put our own spin on things, like different mash bills, different chars, different, but the sweet mashing, and we put wheat in everything too. So our bourbon and rye are both have a high wheat content, and that you either like that or you don't like. But once again, our goal was not to compete with Kentucky. It was to do something new and have a whiskey that tasted like its ingredients, kind of like more like a Japanese or a Scotch whiskey does, because there's already great Kentucky whiskey, and we want to do our own thing.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't. yes, you are competing with them, but you're not competing against them. I mean, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, does Civil Life
You're not here to knock
compete
them off.
with Budweiser? Like,
Yes, correct.
yeah, it's like, I guess so, but like, nobody's gonna like get confused and accidentally
Yeah.
buy Four Hands instead of Miller. You know,
Correct,
like,
yeah. But so your focus then turns to how do I just do a product that's good that people will enjoy,
Right.
Not enjoy more than X.
right? It's like, what am I the best at making? What am I the most proud to sell?
Yeah.
Becomes the question. Not, and then we just do our own thing and let the customers find us. And
Yeah.
God, yeah, they do. They really.
That's good.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on the grains and how you use wheat and everything, even on the rye side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about those grains a little bit more.
Sure.
What do you tip? I mean, where do you get it from? Where's the source? I mean, not looking for any kind of proprietary stuff, of course, but like, where do you get your product?
So we're really picky about our grains.
Yeah.
We have bought some corn from Missouri. There's a lot of brands that are from Missouri, and we support local. We try to source everything locally, but we care a lot more about protein, starch, and oil ratios than we do about where it's from. We find that we care the most about flavor,
Yeah.
and then we care about where it's from. So we've gotten rye from Pennsylvania before. We've gotten rye from up north, like Minnesota, North Dakota, up there. And then we've gotten corn from like around Kansas City, around Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. We buy a lot of corn. And then right now our malt comes from Colorado. And the wheat comes from all over.
Yeah.
But it's all from the Midwest. Nothing's coming over the mountains. So.
Yeah, keep it in between the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that, and I appreciate that. Obviously, a lot of folks, we want to buy local and support local, and that's great. But there's to a point where it can affect quality, and I appreciate that.
And honestly, like, Illinois is closer than Kansas City. So if we care about local, let's just care about local. And so, yeah.
A different story if you were in the middle of Missouri.
Right. Yeah. Then if we're in
border.
Columbia, that's different. But
yeah,
we'll buy from Illinois because they have good corn.
Yeah.
We're almost to the point. I'm talking with a few farmers right now about contract growing corn and rye for us, because we buy enough of it to make it worth it for both of us, but haven't quite pulled the trigger on that yet. So
that's definitely a commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you start buying seeds instead of,
and then you got to worry about the weather.
Yeah. And then you start caring a lot about. I mean, I already care a lot about ag stuff, but yeah.
Good.
It's kind.
I was curious, like, what your mash bills look like for like your bottle and bond, like what?
So we print it right on the front. At the bottom, our rye is 75% rye, 12.5% wheat, and 12.5% barley. So really weird mash bill as far as ryes go. And then we'll go into what I can taste all those choices that Pat and I made in that mash bill. And the bourbon is 63 corn, 25% wheat, and the rest is barley. So, and we use a very different we don't use a distiller's malted barley. We use a pale ale barley. So it's a little nuttier, a little roasted. It's gives it some depth. Distiller's malt is very like neutral, doesn't add flavor, but our barley does. So yeah, like I said, like we're picky about the grain, but honestly, it's the ingredients. Like if you have good ingredients, it's like, how do you make good pasta? Well, you got to have good ingredients
Right.
to make good pasta. So that's what we do.
Mm-hmm. Also, I was going to ask you too. To your left, there's a barrel there with about 10 or 12 bottles on them.
Yeah.
I see a lot of different colors in the whiskeys there. So, like, what's your? Is there a particular char that you guys use? Or?
Yeah. So our bourbon and rye are both a blend of 3 and 4, char 3 and char 4. The bourbon is always 2 char 3s and 1 char 4 mixed together, and we always put them down in sets of 3 and pull them in sets of 3. So we're about to bottle a 9-barrel run of bourbon for example, and there's going to be 6 char 3s and 3 char 4s. Rye's the opposite. So it's like 2 char 4s and 1 char 3 in that set. But that's how we get a depth of flavor, and that's how we get consistency because all the barrels taste so different. That's one thing we learned, like early on, was that we had to be really picky. It's a little embarrassing, but at first we would just pick the next 3 in the row, and now we taste 20 barrels and pick 9 of them to make a product that's way better and way more consistent.
There's between starting out and having some experience in
but we've been doing this for a while now, so.
Yeah. So let's go down that road then.
Sure.
About, you have the apple brandy, you have all the different stuff. So a lot of different profiles, right? How do you approach balancing the variety and consistency? So we talked a little bit about almost like a 2-to-1 ratio in the barrels with chars, and you've got all these different flavors. How do you balance that variety but keep it consistent?
Right. So a big thing for us was thinking about barrels as a product to barrels as an ingredient. So an ingredient in products. So we sell a young bourbon and rye. It's a very high proof. It's for what it is. It's like 100 proof rye and it's young, it's big, it's bold, and it's amazing for cocktails. And we sell tons of that. But we created that product not for bourbon sippers. We created it for bartenders to make Manhattans and Sazeracs, and like we create a product for a specific purpose. And then the bottom line, you can make excellent cocktails out of that as well, but it's for sippers. It's for people who want to, enjoy the taste of it. But it's just you pick the barrels very differently when it's going to get mixed with absinthe and vermouth and like Campari and like these big bold flavors need a big bold whiskey, and it's not going to be the same whiskey you want to sip with ice or it's just totally different. It's the same barrels, same mash bill. They're all next to each other in the distillery, but we try to. They're 2 different customers. Like people like cocktails usually, or they don't. Or they only like sweet cocktails, or they don't like sweet cocktails. So it's like we try to. If we come out with a new product, we want to sell to a new customer who currently doesn't or needs to fit this need. I make a Manhattan every day after work. Which one should I get? It's like I'm bringing some whiskey to a tasting at my friend's house, and we're all bringing a bottle. Which one should I get? My dad likes Eagle Rare. What should I get? Like this one. Buy the bourbon. It's super fruity and light and clean. So that's kind of how we do it. And if we come out with a new product, we have a pretty good idea of who we're going to try and sell it to.
I've heard a lot of folks say, "Well, that's a good cocktail bourbon," or this is just, and I'm like, I mean, I guess, but I don't do many cocktails. I just do,
right.
Mine's more straight or with an ice cube, and I don't need the extra calories in the soda or whatever.
Right.
And I don't make enough Manhattans to keep all the ingredients fresh and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, so I never thought that's neat though. When you taste in a barrel, you've got specific need, or you've got things in mind of where this could go. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, age statements matter. Price matters a lot. People, but a lot of people are willing to spend a couple bucks more to get like a much better whiskey. I just think it started raining. We also do these limited releases too. So, if we're tasting those barrels and we find one that's far too good, well, one question is like, hey, could this benefit from more age? Why would I sell it now? If it's just going to taste better later on, I just pick another one that tastes good. Like the other question is this too good to put in a blend? Is this good on its own? Like, is this good enough to sell by itself And so what we'll normally do is we'll empty that barrel out into a stout barrel or a wine barrel or a mead barrel or something fun, and put our spin on it and just release it as a single barrel release. So that's our stout finished. It's in a mill pond. I also like to work with other local breweries and wineries and stuff, and kind of cross promote and do some fun. So that's our rye. We finished it in a stout cask. That's one reason it's so dark. It's because there's a lot of particles from the stout still in there.
Someone actually, I was going to actually, because I like the darker colors.
Yeah. It's 95 proof, so it's not. Usually, the less water makes it darker and more age, especially in the char 4s. But that one's darker because it had a bunch of stout, mud left in the bottom, and it just really thickened it up.
Sounds delicious.
It's awesome. Yeah.
All right, so let's go with that collaboration piece you talked about, and the importance of Missouri and St. Louis. I mean, for those who aren't aware and you haven't looked up Switchgrass yet, we're probably 10 minutes maybe from the Arch.
Yeah.
And so we're not in downtown St. Louis. We're just right on the edge of the city of St. Louis, correct?
Yeah, our fence is the city line, so we're in county technically.
Okay, so just to give you some geography, that's why he said if he can get good corn in Illinois, because he's a stone's throw away.
Yeah.
He has a good arm. And so, but talk about the importance of your location, and specifically St. Louis, and the history, and how you are collaborating with others to kind of to create your product.
Sure. So we're on the north side. We're about halfway in between Forest Park and Highway 70. We were looking for a building for a while when we were starting out, and we were looking all over. But then we expanded our search to the north side, and it became very clear that it was so good for making whiskey. The water, we would just tour these big buildings and taste the water, and it would always. The north side's water is very different. It's high alkalinity. It comes from a limestone bluff. The Chain of Rocks water treatment place is right under a limestone bluff on the Mississippi, and it's got very high alkalinity in the water. So the north side's tap water is incredible for the same reason Kentucky's water is. And it's limestone, high alkalinity, very pure, very delicious water that doesn't have to be treated in order to make it good for whiskey. So that's number one. Two is the north side's cheap. You can just buy a building with a check. You don't have to involve a bank, and you don't have to pay a mortgage. So the overheads, you can afford to make more barrels and just store them as long as you want and not pay to store them. So that's another really good reason. We're not open to the public, which, sometimes sucks and sometimes is awesome.
Yeah.
But it's great for storing hundreds of barrels.
It's good. Yeah. How's that collaboration piece come around? So you talked briefly about a little collaboration with some other breweries.
Yeah, so we've worked with a lot of the local breweries, either on barrel finishing products or making products for them. We know a lot of the local brewery owners just because we're in the industry and we see each other out. And what's a good HVAC guy? Where do you get your forklift fixed? Stuff like that. Yeah. I'm friends with a lot of the local brewery and distillery owners, and just makes it really easy to be like, hey, we got a bunch of fresh dump rye barrels. You want to do something fun? Mm-hmm. Be like, I just dumped this wheat wine. Let's finish it in that. So we're working with Second Shift, and I know Civil Life Jake, and anyway, just a lot of collaborations, and it's just so different than big corporate. Y'all. I mean, there's competition, but there's not. It's the competition's between us and corporate, not us and each other. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing I've definitely learned from this journey of the podcast is the community aspect of all the distillers that are, because I mean, most of the distillers we've talked to on the show are of the craft variety, small, and you know, trying to make it and taking the process to do that and all that, and so it's been really neat to kind of hear that yes, it is competition, but at the same time it's not. You guys are here to benefit each other as much as share the shelf.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good. We like I'm friends with Adam at Stumpy's. I'm friends with Dave from Still 630. I Gary, Heingardner, and I know, and like I said, like we all look out for each other, and it's good. It's a good spot to be.
Very cool. All right, so we have two questions left for this particular portion of the episode. The first one is if you have anything on the horizon that you're willing to share, what's next for Switchgrass? What can we expect to see coming down toward the fall and winter? Again, I'm not looking for any secrets.
Okay. We just released an American whiskey like 2 weeks ago. That's probably the newest release. It's first off, it's like a $30 bottle, so it's the same price as our like cocktail whiskeys, but it's proof down to 82, and we filtered it. So normally our whiskey's like really oily and rich and complex, but we were trying to go for more like Jameson, like Irish style whiskey, and just because we don't make anything like that, and it's really cool, and it's going over well. It's so our distributor already rebought, so nice. That's going really well. That's this one.
Okay.
But every year we do a new single malt. That's kind of fun. We're about to release a stout cask finished bourbon. That's the one I'm bottling next.
Okay.
So that'll come out probably in a couple weeks. It takes a while to get to our distributor, out to the stores and stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably the next one. But we've got some apple brandies that are getting pretty old. We're going to probably release a older age statement on our apple brandies this year. But yeah, we just filled up some mead barrels and some port wine barrels too. Okay. Those will probably come out next year. We always have a few limited release single barrel stuffs going, but as far as like big core, like the Bottle and Bond and the regular bourbon and rye, those are just probably going to age up. I think the Bottle and Bond's going to be a 6-year, about midway through next year.
Okay.
So
nice.
we have 6-year-old barrels. We just don't have enough to keep them in stock. You got to be kind of careful with that, but
forward thinking.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so then the last question is setting up the next episode, the tasting episode. Cool. So what are we going to taste? And we're going to say that now so that people can get out to those stores and buy them. So what are we going to taste, and where can people get the product?
Okay. Depends on how much you want to taste, because we have a lot. And I'll twist your arm, but
I got to drive back home, so let's keep that in mind. Okay. But we're up for whatever.
Okay.
And
I would definitely taste the 2 bourbons and the 2 ryes.
Okay.
And the apple brandy. Like those 5 are our best sellers, and it's very fun to taste the 2 bourbons and the 2 ryes back to back. If you want to taste some of the single barrel stuff, they're very fun. Okay. Like the single malt and the finished whiskeys we do are fun, but I would definitely start with the core stuff. As far as where to get it, we sell everywhere. We're at Schnucks, Whole Foods. We sell at Trader Joe's now. Nice. Not at Deerberg's. We sell at Wine and Cheese Place is a really good place. They carry everything. Parker's Table.
I think I've seen an A1 and like not 4 Roses, but Royal,
yeah.
Schnucks.
Royal.
Yeah.
Schnucks too.
Yeah, Schnucks. We're in a lot of the Schnucks.
Yeah. Pretty cool. So it's out there.
Yeah. We have.
So no excuses, people.
No. We sell from Wichita to south of Chicago. We sold.
Wow. Okay.
We sold a lot. We sold like 26,000 bottles last year.
That's awesome.
We're doing really well.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, that's what I was going to ask too for your fans around the country. So like, how many states are you in?
3 right now.
Okay.
So Kansas, Missouri, Illinois. But we're not in Chicago. So like all of Illinois but Chicago.
Very good. All right. So
Randall's too.
Randall's?
Yeah. Randall's carries everything. So
Great. So if you're at any of those places, you got a lot to choose from. Pick up, you do one or you do all 5. That's great. We're going to try the 2 bourbons and the 2 whiskeys and the apple brandy on the next episode. And then we may try some others, but we're not going to record that, so haha. But yeah, so that'll be on the next episode. You've got 2 weeks to get to a store, tell them I'm here because St. Charles Bourbon Society and Sip Wiselee said to be here, and I'm excited to try this product. But Nick, thank you very much for your time and telling us a little bit about the history and the process. It sounded amazing, and you've done some great work.
yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
All right, everyone. That brings us to the close of what has been a truly illuminating episode of the Sip Wiselee podcast. Being there on location with Nick from Switchgrass and having one of our members, Gary, along with us, gave us an incredible look behind the curtain of a distillery that truly marches to the beat of its own drum. What really stood out for me from our conversation with Nick today was Switchgrass's unwavering commitment to doing things differently, to create a distinct and high-quality product. From his personal journey, pivoting from international development and initially planning a brewery, to embracing European fruit brandies, which it was quite intriguing. Can't wait to talk about it next episode, before getting into the American whiskeys. It's clear Nick brings a unique perspective. This is vividly reflected in their sweet mashing process, which results in that less acidic, oilier, richer, and fuller whiskey that tastes better sooner. And let's not forget their fascinating crowdsourcing and work-owned model, which we talked about in the opening and Nick talked about during the show, but making it every full-time employee and equity owner, how cool is that? A truly collaborative spirit. We also can't overlook the strategic advantage of their North St. Louis location with its naturally perfect limestone filtered water that mirrors Kentucky's best. Now, who knew? I guess I did not know that. Maybe we mentioned that back in Still 630s, way back in episode 1, but that was a long time ago. But that's pretty cool to hear that St. Louis does have some of the best water, especially when you're talking about for whiskey making. But all of that is a testament to how careful choices in every step of that process shape the final spirit. Now, as insightful as this episode has been, the real fun is just beginning. In 2 weeks, you should know what's coming out. That is our tasting episode. Our very next episode, coming out on the 15th of September, will be our tasting episode with Switchgrass. We're inviting all of you to join us for this exclusive Switchgrass product tasting. Nick has generously lined up 2 bourbons, 2 ryes, and their crisp apple brandy for us to explore. So, if you're eager to experience these unique spirits for yourselves, make sure to pick up a bottle either on the Rocks in St. Charles, A1 Wine and Spirits in St. Charles, Grillo's has them, Macadoodles has them as well. Great retailers have them. But if you're listening outside of the St. Charles area, they are in a lot of places in Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois, though not Chicago, as mentioned in the episode. You've got 2 weeks to prepare yourself. So, no excuses. Plenty of time to check out those wonderful facilities, liquor stores, and pick up a bottle of Switchgrass and try it with us. Nick from Switchgrass, thank you so much for your incredible hospitality and your time. It was wonderful of you sharing the Switchgrass story and for giving us a peek into your craft. It's been an absolute privilege. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in and sipping wisely with us. We can't wait to share those tasting notes with you that next time. So get out there and get that Switchgrass, and we'll see you next episode. Cheers. Thank you for tuning in to the Sip Wiselee podcast. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button to get the latest episodes. Don't forget to visit our website at stcharlesbourbonsociety.com for the show notes. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please share them on social media. Follow us on all platforms by searching for St. Charles Bourbon Society. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge to sip wisely. Cheers.